She got me canceled in front of everyone. But 1 week later, the truth destroyed her. It happened in 37 seconds. 37 seconds to destroy everything I'd spent 5 years building. One sentence, one room full of people, one look of fake concern, was all it took for my life to collapse. And I swear, the worst part wasn't even what she said. It was how they believed her. Just like that. Let me back up. My name is Daniel, 28, ex-UX designer for a major tech startup. Or, used to be. Before I got absolutely obliterated by someone I thought was on my side. No, worse. Someone I once loved. Yeah, this is a story about betrayal. Not just romantic betrayal, but professional, social, psychological. The kind of betrayal that makes you question if you were ever awake the whole time. Or just a pawn in someone else's game. The story starts on a Thursday. Sounds innocent, right? It was the company's semi-annual all-hands meeting. Our CEO, Brianna, young, charismatic, loved to empower people on LinkedIn, was doing her usual performance. You know, the fake empathy mixed with hustle porn. Let's disrupt the space. User-centered innovation, synergy. All that. And then she said it. That sentence. The one that shattered me. She cleared her throat, turned toward the 100 employees in the room, and said, with the voice of someone delivering bad news with fake compassion, "We've initiated a formal investigation into the conduct of one of our team members, Daniel Myers, who has displayed troubling behavior toward his female colleagues." The silence was suffocating. People turned. My ears started ringing. She didn't even look at me as she said it. Just kept talking. Smooth. Practiced. Until the matter is resolved, Daniel will be on immediate leave of absence. We prioritize a safe, respectful environment for everyone. I don't remember standing up. I don't remember walking out. But I remember the looks. The slow shake of a head. The sideways glances. The whispers. I remember the sting of betrayal blooming in my chest like a grenade. I hadn't done anything wrong. I knew I hadn't. But it didn't matter. Because in that moment, I realized something. The truth doesn't matter when the story's already told. Let me rewind. Brianna and I weren't just co-workers. We were more than that. We weren't public, but people suspected. Late nights in the office. Long strategy meetings, just the two of us. Inside jokes. She called me her secret weapon in meetings. Said I had the kind of brain that made companies billions. And I believed her. God, I was such an idiot. I worked like a maniac. Took on twice the projects. Slept maybe 4 hours a night. Built wireframes in coffee shops. Brainstormed user journeys on the back of receipts. I lived and breathed that company. And she knew that. She used that. The week before the bomb dropped, she came into my office late one evening. Closed the door. Sat on my desk. She said, "I need you to trust me. Things are going to move fast. Promotions, restructures, maybe a new VP of product. You've been loyal. I see that." I didn't ask questions. I nodded. I trusted her. I thought that meant something. Stupid, right? The next morning after the announcement, I woke up to over 60 missed calls, texts, emails. HR legal. My team lead. Even my mom. They didn't fire me. Not yet. They wanted to be thorough, which meant 3 weeks of complete hell. Isolation. Anxiety. Waiting. Wondering. Meanwhile, the rumor mill exploded. I saw the Reddit threads. The anonymous Medium article. Tech bro tries to manipulate CEO. Predator designer removed from startup. And the worst part? I still didn't know who accused me. No one told me. No names. No context. Just vague, inappropriate behavior. But I knew one thing. I hadn't crossed any line. I'd never touched anyone. Never even flirted. I kept my head down and worked. So why? Why me? The answer came a week later. From someone I hadn't spoken to in months. Lila. Junior dev kind, quiet, brilliant. Used to be on my team before switching departments. She messaged me one line on Slack. Check the internal pitch deck. Slide 19. Something's wrong. That's when I realized. This wasn't about misconduct. It was about control. And if I was right, then Brianna hadn't just ruined my reputation. She'd stolen my future. I opened the deck. The one Lila mentioned. An internal pitch presentation we'd worked on together 2 months earlier. It was supposed to be a strategy outline for a new client. Big money, high stakes, lots of moving pieces. I'd poured everything into that deck. Sketches, flows, mock-ups, even back-end notes to help devs align with the design logic. But when I hit slide 19, something punched me in the chest. There it was. My work. My language. My diagrams. But no credit. None. In the bottom right corner, where my name used to be, Brianna's, presented as her own. Suddenly, things started clicking. The late-night meetings. The sudden closeness. The trust me speech. It wasn't about connection. It was about extraction. I was the engine. She was taking the credit. And now that the project was live, the client signed, the funding secured, I was disposable. But it didn't stop there. I went deeper. Opened the version history. Tracked the edits. Slide by slide, I watched as she slowly erased my fingerprints. Replaced keywords I used. Rewrote headers. Shifted colors, fonts. Superficial tweaks, but the structure, the ideas, the bones were mine. Every slide whispered, "She took this from you." I was shaking, but not from fear. From fury. This wasn't sabotage. This was strategy. She'd built a paper trail where I didn't exist. And now? She'd planted the final nail, an HR complaint, vague and unsourced, framed as concerns from multiple women. The kind of accusation no one questions. The kind that sticks even without proof. Suddenly, I remembered something. That night in my office. Her hand on my desk. The look in her eye when she said, "Things are going to move fast." She knew. She planned this. She used me to build the golden goose, then tossed me in front of a moving train the moment it laid its egg. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I pulled every version of every doc I'd worked on over the last year. Comparisons. Timestamps. Slack threads. Email receipts. Design history in Figma. Backend logs. I built a digital map of every touch point, proof of my authorship, my contributions, my presence. I didn't know where it was going yet, but I knew this. I wasn't going down without a fight. Because if they were going to erase me, then I'd leave them no choice but to see me. But that wasn't even the most insane part. The real twist came the next day. An email. Not from legal. Not from HR. But from a burner Gmail account. Subject line, "You're not crazy." She did it to me too. I froze. Opened it. The message was short. She used my work. She blamed me when it failed. I almost lost everything. Don't trust her. She plays long games. If you're smart, you'll go public before she does it again. No name. No signature. But the timestamp? It was from 10 months ago. Someone else had been here before me. Someone who hadn't made it out. And now they were warning me. This wasn't just a one-off. It was a pattern. And if I didn't act soon, I'd be her next ghost. I stared at the email for hours. Read it. Reread it. Analyzed every word like it was a code. Whoever wrote it had clearly been burned. Just like me. Same playbook. Same ghosting. Same erasure. Only they didn't fight back. But I would. No more waiting. No more being respectful while my reputation got dragged through the mud. If Brianna wanted a clean exit, a neat little scandal she could control, she was about to find out I wasn't that kind of problem. I opened a new folder on my desktop. Named it, The Truth. Inside, I dropped everything. Design files. Git logs with my commits. Meeting recordings. Even voice memos I'd sent to myself at 3 a.m. brainstorming flows, my voice, my ideas, my proof. Then I went deeper. I pulled receipts. Venmo logs showing I paid for prototype testing out of pocket. Slack messages where she praised my work, timestamped, archived. A calendar screenshot from the night she told me to trust her. And then I found something I'd forgotten. A Google Doc from months ago. Shared between the two of us. Titled, Strategy Brain Dump, Daniel's Notes. Not Brianna's. Mine. But now? The sharing settings were changed. Access revoked. Like I never existed. Except Google keeps version history. And guess who's the original owner? Me. Her empire had cracks. She just didn't know it yet. But here's the thing. I couldn't go to HR. Not yet. They already saw me as contaminated. And if I dropped everything now, they'd spin it. Say I was retaliating, bitter, trying to claw back power. I needed leverage. I needed someone inside. So I did something I hadn't done in weeks. I called Lila. She picked up on the first ring. "Are you okay?" she asked, voice low, nervous. I didn't answer that. Instead, I said, "Why slide 19? She went quiet. Then whispered, "Because that's where I realized she was using your work in her investor pitch. Not the client pitch. She's planning something big. Restructure. Or spin-off." My blood ran cold. Investor pitch? She was presenting my strategy as her company vision. Trying to cash out on my brain. That's when it hit me. She wasn't just building clout. She was setting herself up to leave, to take the idea and walk. And if that happened, I wouldn't just lose credit. I'd lose the future I built. Forever. So I asked Lila one question. Will you help me prove it? She hesitated. Then, I already started. And she sent it. A screen recording. Brianna on Zoom, rehearsing the pitch. No audience. Just her practicing. But the slides? Mine. Word for word. And the voiceover? Over the past 6 months, I've personally developed and led the innovation framework you're about to see. Lie. After lie. After lie. I watched it 3 times, jaw clenched so tight I thought my teeth might crack. She wasn't just taking credit. She was rewriting history, erasing me in real time. And I had 72 hours before that pitch went live. That was the deadline. After that, it was done. She'd be gone. Funded. Untouchable. Unless I moved first. I didn't want revenge. Not yet. I just wanted my name. My work. My truth. But something in me shifted that night. Because suddenly it wasn't about clearing my name. It was about stopping a fraud. Because if she got away with this, she'd do it again. To someone else. And the next guy might not even know what hit him. So I made a choice. I wasn't going to plead my case. I was going to burn the mask off her face. And let the whole company watch what crawled out from underneath. The funny thing is, once you stop trying to explain yourself, everything gets quiet. Not peaceful. Not yet. But clear. I spent the entire night drawing up the map. Step by step. Every asset Brianna had copied. Every moment she'd leaned on me, taken from me, then deleted the evidence. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to send a rage email to the board. I was going to document the crime. And then let her commit it again. Publicly. Permanently. Because once it's on record, you can't erase it. Lila was key. She still had access. And she had no illusions left about who Brianna really was. Apparently, this wasn't the first time she'd seen Brianna borrow someone else's work. It was just the first time she felt brave enough to speak up. So we formed a plan. Nothing illegal. No hacking. No leaks. Just a paper trail. Let the truth speak louder than the lie. Lila dropped me the internal calendar file. And there it was. Thursday, 9:30 a.m. Investor preview, Alpha Deck V1. Private meeting. Executive only. Zoom only. But the company recorded everything for transparency. She'd be screen sharing. That meant, once she opened that deck, once those slides with my work showed up under her name, it would be on file. Permanently. All I needed to do was connect the dots. Make it irrefutable. So I spent the next 2 days building a mirror deck. Same slides. Same structure. But annotated with version history, timestamps, metadata. A forensic breakdown. Then I added the killer detail. A small invisible watermark on slide 4 of the original prototype. My initials. Buried in the corner at 1% opacity. She hadn't even noticed. But I had the raw file. The version with the watermark and the timestamp from 5 months ago. That watermark was like digital DNA. And once it showed up in her deck, game over. But here's where it gets interesting. I didn't send it to HR. Didn't leak it to the press. Didn't post it on Reddit or Blind or Twitter. No. I sent it to one person. Jacob Lee. Internal legal counsel. Not flashy. Not on Slack much. But sharp. And quietly, known for being incorruptible. The kind of guy who didn't play favorites. I sent him a private message. Subject. Possible IP misattribution. Documentation attached. Body. Please review before Thursday's 9:30 a.m. investor call. Happy to discuss further. No emotion. No drama. Just receipts. The kind of email that doesn't ask for help. It just says, look. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Then I waited. All day Wednesday. No reply. Nothing. But I saw he opened it. 3 times. And forwarded it once. I didn't know to who. But my gut told me. Thursday morning was going to be interesting. And I was right. Because at exactly 9:42 a.m., I got a one-line message from Lila. She just opened the deck. At 9:47, slide 4 is up. And then, at 9:51, legal just joined the call. I exhaled and smiled for the first time in weeks. Because Brianna? She didn't even realize she just walked into her own trap. They say most people don't notice the exact moment when control slips out of their hands. But I think Brianna did. Because at exactly 10:03 a.m., during what should have been a flawless investor run-through, she paused mid-sentence. Froze. Just for a second. It wasn't obvious. Not to the untrained eye. But I saw it in the recording. Lila sent it to me 2 hours later. God bless screen capture tools. There it was. Slide 4. My slide. The layout, the icons, the language, mine. And in the corner? That invisible watermark. You couldn't see it unless you zoomed in. But she had to know. She had to feel it. Because that pause? That wasn't her buffering. That was her realizing she wasn't alone anymore. Jacob Lee didn't say anything during the meeting. Didn't unmute. Didn't interrupt. But I knew why he was there. He was watching. And logging. And waiting. Because when legal joins a pitch call unannounced, it's not casual. It's not supportive. It's surveillance. And Brianna? She knew that, too. Because the next day, she vanished. No Slack. No email. No calendar updates. Her usual flurry of motivational quotes and agenda spam, gone. Radio silence. And then, at 2:11 p.m., my inbox pinged. Not from her. From HR. Subject line, follow-up, recent concerns. My pulse spiked. I opened it. We'd like to schedule a brief conversation to clarify your prior leave of absence. Please let us know your availability this week. No apology. No explanation. Just a shift. The tone had changed. They weren't accusing me anymore. They were walking it back. Slowly. Quietly. Like they hadn't just tried to set my entire career on fire. I didn't reply right away. I let them sit with it. Because now, I had the leverage. They didn't know how much I documented. They didn't know who else I'd sent it to. They didn't know if I'd already gone public. And fear? Fear is a beautiful thing in the right hands. Lila called me that night. Said Brianna came back online around 6 p.m. But only briefly. She deleted 2 old Slack threads. Removed herself from 3 shared documents. Then, nothing. Disappeared again. And in the background, something even more interesting was happening. The investor she pitched canceled the second call. Rescheduled indefinitely. And the department heads? Suddenly reactivating old documents. Looking at my decks again. Asking questions. Lots of them. It was happening. Not with a bang, but with doubt. And doubt spreads fast. But here's the twist. I wasn't celebrating. Not yet. Because Brianna? She wasn't stupid. She was calculating. And if she smelled smoke, she'd try to kill the fire fast. Maybe even flip the script again. Play victim. Say I'd orchestrated a smear campaign. So I stayed quiet. Watched. Waited. And then, 2 days later, it came. The final move. A calendar invite. Internal. No title. Just, Brianna, exit interview. 30 minutes. 1 legal rep. 1 board member. And an empty seat with my name on it. Friday. 11:58 a.m. I sat in the Zoom lobby. Muted. Camera off. Just a name on the screen. Daniel M. Across from me, 3 others. Jacob Lee, legal. Mara, one of the board advisors. And her. Brianna. She logged in late. 12:01. No greeting. No small talk. Just her video flickering on. And that trademark composed expression polished, unreadable, corporate to the bone. But this time, her smile didn't reach her eyes. Jacob spoke first. Neutral, as always. This is a non-disciplinary exit discussion regarding recent leadership transitions. Per standard protocol, this will be recorded. Brianna nodded. Understood. Mara looked uncomfortable. She was HR-friendly, a people person. In this situation, it was ice. Then Jacob added, Daniel is here with permission to attend, as some of the materials in question trace back to his project files. Brianna blinked. Just once. But it was the first crack I'd seen. She knew. They knew. I didn't speak. Didn't need to. My presence was the message. The next 26 minutes felt like surgery with no anesthesia. Jacob read through timelines. Slide access logs. Design attributions. He never raised his voice. He never used the word plagiarism. But the implication was a knife against the glass. Slow. Precise. Brianna kept it together, barely. But I noticed her hand. She kept adjusting her bracelet. Over and over. A nervous tick. Something I hadn't seen since last year, during an investor panic. That's when I realized something important. This wasn't just a professional loss for her. This was personal. She built a career on control, charisma, performance. But now, that control was slipping, and I was watching her feel it. In real time. At minute 27, Mara tried to soften it. We appreciate your contributions, Brianna. Obviously, there's been miscommunication. But transparency is important to us. Miscommunication. Right. That's what we're calling fraud now. But fine. Let her save face. Let her walk out with her last scrap of dignity. She'd need it. At 12:29 p.m., Jacob ended the call. Thank you, everyone. The official summary will be shared via legal channels. We are concluding the discussion here. Brianna nodded, lips tight. She looked at me. First time that day. And for a second, I swear I saw it. Regret. Not for what she did, but that it didn't work. She opened her mouth, then closed it, and logged off. Just like that. No apology. No explanation. Just silence. But that silence spoke louder than any confession ever could. And me? I just sat there. Camera off. Muted. Alone again in the lobby. But not the same. Because this time, I wasn't invisible. That evening, I got a new calendar invite. Subject, reinstatement discussion, Monday, 10 a.m. I stared at it for a long time, but I didn't click, except, not yet, because I had one more thing to do first. Something just for me. Something that had nothing to do with the company, or Brianna, or cleaning up the mess she made. I opened my email, typed out a single message. To the anonymous burner account. Subject, I believe you. Body. She's gone. She won't do this to anyone else. If you ever want to talk, really talk, I'm here. I had sinned, and for the first time in months, I didn't feel broken. I felt whole. Monday, 9:58 a.m. Same Zoom lobby. Different energy. No more legal. No more tension. Just me and two new faces. Kara, the interim VP of product, and Miles, the founder. The guy whose name was on the company, but who hadn't spoken to me since the whole mess started. They let me in at 10:01. Kara smiled. The genuine kind. Warm. Respectful. Daniel, thank you for joining us. Miles stayed quiet. Of course he did. But he didn't look smug. He looked tired. Like someone who just realized the person he'd trusted most had been building her throne on someone else's bones. Kara led. First of all, I want to acknowledge the way things were handled. We can't change the past, but we can take responsibility for it. Pause. A beat. Then, you were treated unfairly. And we see that now. I didn't nod. Didn't react. Just let the silence stretch. Let them feel it. Miles finally cleared his throat. We want you back. Effective immediately. Title restored. Back pay. Ended. He hesitated. Equity adjustments, based on your original contribution to the Alpha deck. I looked at him, dead in the eye. That's not why I came back. He blinked. Kara leaned in, curious. I continued. I'm not interested in undoing damage. I'm interested in preventing it from ever happening again. Kara nodded slowly. Miles frowned. What are you suggesting? I took a breath. And then I said it. I want to restructure the creative pipeline. I want full authorship logs, project attribution tracking, transparent version control. Nothing goes out without an audit trail. Ever again. Silence. Then Kara, you're proposing accountability. No, I said, calm and clear. I'm proposing protection. For people like me. For the next me. Miles looked down. Said nothing. And then, finally, he nodded. Done. They reinstated me that day. Emails, Slack, system access, all restored. I watched as my name reappeared in documents, credits, team chats. Like nothing ever happened. Like the nightmare had been a glitch. But I knew better. I felt the fracture. And now I understood something powerful. They weren't bringing me back because they believed in me. They were bringing me back because they needed me. And this time, I wouldn't give them my silence. I'd give them my terms. Lila met me in the courtyard that evening. Sun going down. Air still warm. She smiled, a little nervously. You did it. I shook my head. We did it. She hesitated. Then said, they offered me Brianna's old role. I blinked. Seriously. She nodded. Turns out, once the smoke cleared, people noticed I'd been doing the hard work all along. They just needed the lie to collapse. I laughed. Not bitter. Not vengeful. Just relieved. Take it, I said, and build it better. She nodded. I will. That night, I sat on my balcony, drink in hand, laptop closed. Notifications pinged. Emails, messages, Slack pings, all coming back online. But I didn't check any of them. Because I didn't need digital validation anymore. I knew who I was. What I'd built. What I'd survived. And maybe most importantly, what I protected. It came in the middle of the night. 1:47 a.m. Subject line. I didn't think anyone would believe me. The sender? Still anonymous. But this time, they signed the message. Just one word. Elena. I sat up in bed, phone glowing in the dark, and read her message slowly. It wasn't long, but every line was soaked in a kind of tired grief you can't fake. She took my research strategy, back in 2021, presented it as her own at a conference in Berlin. I was too junior. No one would have believed me. I spoke up once, and suddenly I was labeled emotional. Difficult. 2 months later, I was let go. Culture fit issues. That's what they said. I watched her build her brand off of what I created, and I blamed myself for not being smarter, not being colder, until I saw your name in that deck. And I realized she just moved on to a new host. I sat there in silence, heart pounding. It was exactly what I'd suspected. But seeing it written out from someone real made it hit harder. This wasn't just about me. It never was. I replied. Not immediately. I wanted to be careful, thoughtful. When I finally wrote back, I kept it simple. I believe you. And it's not your fault. You weren't too emotional. You were just inconvenient to someone who needed to steal without witnesses. Then I added, if you ever want to talk, not just about what happened, but about what's next, I'm here. I had sinned. And then I just sat there. Not triumphant. Not vindicated. Just human. The next morning, she replied again. You don't know how much that means. I spent years thinking I was crazy. But now? Now I think maybe it was just ahead of its time. That line stuck with me all day. Ahead of its time. That's what people always say when someone tells the truth too early, before the world's ready to hear it. But now, the world was ready. Because someone had stayed, fought back, refused to disappear. And it wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about recognition. I went into the office that day for the first time in 2 months. People looked up as I walked in. Some smiled. Some avoided eye contact. A few whispered. But no one dared ask. Because they already knew. The story had spread, not in gossip, but in truth. And the truth was louder than anything Brianna ever said. Later that day, I sent one final email. To HR. To legal. To the board. Subject line. Final recommendation. In it, I laid out everything I'd learned. The watermark. The timeline. The deleted documents. And then I added this. I'm not requesting action, but I do recommend reviewing all attribution claims from the past 3 years. There are more Elenas out there. And next time, they shouldn't need someone like me to be believed. I had sinned, closed the tab, and let it go. That night, I got one last message from Elena. No greeting, no explanation. Just, thank you for staying when I couldn't. And for the first time in a very long time. I cried, not out of anger, not out of fear, but because finally, I didn't feel alone. 1 month later, I stood in the same office where it all started. Same glass walls, same recycled air, same rows of laptops, keyboards, productivity dashboards glowing like digital leashes. But it didn't feel the same, because I didn't feel the same. I walked past the big wall where they used to hang framed quotes from leadership. Build fast, fail faster, trust the process. But Brianna's frame? Gone. Nothing in its place. Just a clean, empty wall. And in a weird way, that felt right. Let the silence speak. Lila had taken over as interim director. And it was working. For the first time in years, the creative team wasn't burnt out, paranoid, or pretending to be inspired by things they secretly hated. People smiled in the halls. Ideas flowed again. And the system was cleaner, safer, traceable. The logs worked. The attribution model I pushed for had become standard. Now, everyone's fingerprints stayed on their work. No more ghostwriting for glory chasers. No more invisible labor. And for a while, that was enough. But then something changed. Not around me. In me. It started slow. A kind of restlessness. Like wearing clothes that used to fit, but now felt tight in all the wrong places. I'd rebuilt my name. I'd cleared my reputation. But I wasn't excited anymore. Not by decks. Not by titles. Not even by the projects I used to obsess over. Because once you've seen what's behind the curtain, once you've felt how easily loyalty gets weaponized against you, you stop wanting to be part of the show. So one Friday afternoon, after my third cup of stale office coffee, I opened a blank document. Typed just 5 words. It's time for something else. And then I drafted my letter. Calm. Professional. But honest. I didn't blame. Didn't accuse. I just wrote the truth. That I'd stayed to protect what mattered. That I'd helped build something better. But now it was time to build on my own terms. The next morning, I walked into Kara's office and handed her the letter. She didn't look shocked. She didn't beg me to stay. She just nodded. I figured it was coming, she said softly. Then she stood up and hugged me. That caught me off guard. But I didn't resist. Because somehow, that unspoken respect, that quiet, "I see you," meant more than any promotion ever could. Word spread by lunchtime. Some congratulated me. Some just watched, unsure how to process someone walking away when they weren't pushed. But Lila? She found me by the elevators. "You sure about this?" she asked. I smiled. Yeah. She looked like she wanted to say more, then stopped herself. Instead, she just said, "You changed things. You know that, right?" I nodded, then stepped into the elevator. Doors closed, and I realized something. The door was never locked. I could have left any time, but I had to stay. Until I knew why I was leaving. The first morning after I left, I woke up before sunrise. No alarm. No Slack pings. No back-to-back meetings waiting like wolves behind a calendar invite. Just silence. And for a second, I panicked. Because I've been moving so fast for so long, sprinting through crisis after crisis, that stillness felt like failure. But then, I sat up, breathed, and felt something I hadn't in months. Peace. I spent that day doing nothing impressive. No grand new startup idea. No productivity hacks. Just small, human things. Coffee with a real mug instead of a paper one. A walk with my phone on silent. Dinner with a friend I hadn't seen since before the chaos. We didn't even talk about work. We just laughed. And somewhere in that laughter, I found it. Myself. Not the Daniel from the decks. Not the UX guy with the brain that makes billions. Just me. Unpackaged. Unbranded. Unowned. A week later, I got a letter in the mail. Handwritten. No return address. Inside? A thank you card. Short. Elegant. No signature. Just one line. "You saved more people than you'll ever know. I hope you're free now. D. Elena." I sat there holding it, heart full, throat tight. And I realized. The story? It wasn't just about what was taken from me. It was about what I chose to keep. I kept my voice. I kept my values. I kept my ability to say, "That's enough." And more than anything, I kept the truth. Not to weaponize it. Not to hurt anyone. Just to remember who I am when the world tries to rewrite me. A month later, I got an offer. A quiet little research firm wanted help building ethical design pipelines. No big names. No glossy PR. But integrity? Written into every contract. I smiled. Not because it was flashy, but because it was real. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I had to prove anything. I just had to show up. As myself. So this is where the story ends. Not with revenge. Not with applause. But with freedom. Because sometimes, the biggest win isn't getting back what was stolen. It's walking away from the people who thought they owned you. And knowing they never did.